Neural control and coordination. Coordination is the process through which two or more organs interact and complement the functions of the one another. The function of the organs and the organ system in our body must be coordinated to maintain homeostasis. For example, when we do physical exercises, when we do physical exercises, the energy demand is increased for maintaining an increased muscular activity, and the supply of oxygen is also increased. The increased supply of oxygen necessitates an increase in the rate of respiration, heartbeat, and increased blood flow via blood vessels. When physical exercise is stopped, the activities of the nerves, lungs, heart, and kidney gradually return to their normal condition. Thus, the function of the muscle, lungs, heart, blood vessel, kidney, and other organs are coordinated while performing physical exercises. In our body, the neural system and the endocrine system jointly coordinate and integrate all the activity of the organs so that they function in a synchronized fashion. The neural system provides an organized network of point to point connections for a quick coordination. The endocrine system provides chemical integration through hormones. Neural system. The neural system of all animal is composed of highly specialized cells called the neurons. Neurons can detect, receive, and transmit different kinds of stimuli. The neural organization is very simple in lower intervertebrates. Invertebrates, for example, in Hydra, it is composed of a network of the neurons. The neural system is better organized in insects, where a brain is present along with the number of ganglia and neural tissue. The vertebrates have a more developed neural system. Vertebrates have more developed. Human neural system. The human neural system is divided into two parts, that is the CNS and the PNS, central and the peripheral nervous system. The CNS includes the brain and spinal cord. CNS is a site of information processing and control. Information processing and control. The PNS comprises of all the nerves of the body. Nerves of body associated with the CNS, that is the brain and the spinal cord. The nerve fibers of the PNS are of two types, that is the afferent and efferent. The afferent nerve fibers transmit impulses from tissue organs to CNS, and the efferent transmit regularly impulsive from CNS to concerned peripheral tissue organs. The PNS is divided into two divisions called the somatic neural system and the autonomic neural system. The somatic neural system relays impulses from the CNS to skeletal muscle. The somatic is the CNS to skeletal muscle, and the autonomic neural system transmits impulses from the CNS to the involuntary organs and smooth muscles of body. So PNS is the somatic and autonomic nerves are the afferent and the efferent. The autonomic neural system is further divided classified into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Sympathetic, sympathetic. Neuron as a structure and function unit of neural system. A neuron is a microscopic structure composed of the three major parts, that is the cell body. The cell body contains cytoplasm, cell organelles, and certain granular bodies called the Nissl granules. Dendrites are short fibers which branch repeatedly and project out of the cell body. They also contain Nissl granules. The Nissl granules, also called the Nissl bodies, are the irregular masses of the RER with the numerous attached and the free ribosomes and the polysomes. These granules probably synthesize proteins for cell. Dendrites transmit impulses towards the body. The axon is a long fiber, the distal node of which is branched. Each branch terminates into a bulb-like structure called the synaptic knob. Synaptic knob possess synaptic vesicles containing chemicals called neurotransmitters. The axon transmits nerve impulses away from the cell body to a synapse or to a neuromuscular junction. Then next is the types of neuron. Based on the number of axon and dendrites, the neurons are divided into three types: unipolar, bipolar, multipolar. Unipolar, bipolar, multipolar. They have cell body with one axon only. Usually in the embryonic stage. Bipolar are with the one axon and one dendrite. They are found in the retina of eye. They are with the one axon and two or more dendrites. In the cerebral cortex. And then we now also have the neurons based on their function. That is the afferent neurons. And the efferent neurons. These neurons carry impulses from receptors to CNS. Sensory in nature. Terminals of dendrites become modified to form receptor. Efferent carry impulses from CNS to effectors like muscles or glands. The axon terminals come in contact with the motor end plate to form neuromuscular junction. Next is the types of neurons. Sorry, axons. There are of the two types, myelinated and the non-myelinated. Myelinated are nerve fibers are enveloped with the Schwann cells, which form a myelin sheath around the axon. The gaps between the two adjacent myelin sheaths are called the nodes of Ranvier. Myelinated nerve fibers are found in the spinal and the cranial nerves. Schwann cells form myelin sheath. Non-myelinated are the and are is enclosed by Schwann cell that does not form. Schwann cells does not form myelin sheath around the axon. It is commonly found in the autonomous and somatic. And the generation and conduction of the nerve impulses. Neurons are excitable cells because their membranes are in a polarized state. Different types of ion channels are present on the neural membrane. These ion channels are selectively permeable to different ions. When the neuron is not conducting any impulse, that is in resting stage, the axonal membrane is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions. In resting stage, the axonal membrane is more permeable to potassium and impermeable to sodium ions. Similarly, the membrane is impermeable to negatively charged proteins present in the exoplasm. Consequently, the exoplasm inside the axon contains high concentration of the potassium and negatively charged proteins and low concentration of sodium. In contrast, the fluid outside the axon contains a low concentration of potassium, a high concentration of sodium, so it forms a concentration gradient. These ionic gradient across the resting membrane are maintained by the active transport of ions by the sodium-potassium pump, which transports 3 sodium outwards for the 2 potassium into the cell. As a result, the outer surface of the axonal membrane possesses a positive charge, while its inner surface becomes negatively charged and therefore is polarized. The electrical potential difference across the resting plasma membrane is called the resting potential. Inside the membrane, the resting potential minus 70 megavolt. Mechanism of generation of nerve impulse and its conduction along an axon. When a stimulus is applied at a site, example point A on the polarized membrane, the membrane at the site A becomes freely permeable to sodium. This leads to a rapid influx of sodium followed by the reversal of the polarity at that site. That is, the outer surface of the membrane becomes negatively charged and the inner become the positively. Now the polarity of the membrane at the site A is reversed and hence depolarized. The electrical potential difference across the plasma membrane at the site A is called the action potential, which is in fact termed as a nerve impulse. The action potential range is the at size immediately ahead the axon. Membrane has a positive charge on the outer surface and a negative charge on its inner surface. As a result, a current flows on the inner surface from the side A to side B. On the outer surface, current flows from the side B to side A to complete the circuit of current flow. Hence, the polarity at the site is reversed and an action potential is generated at site B. Thus, the impulse generated at site A arrives at site B. The sequence is repeated along the length of the axon and consequently the impulse is conducted. The rise in the stimulus induced permeability to sodium is extremely short lived. This is quickly followed by a rise in permeability of the potassium within a fraction of a second. Potassium diffuses outside the membrane and restores the resting potential of the membrane at the site of excitation. The fiber become once more responsive to further stimulation. Conduction of nerve impulse is unidirectional. Transmission of impulses. A nerve impulse is transmitted in the form of the electrochemical wave from one neuron to another through junctions called the synapse. Electrochemical wave. A synapse is formed by the membranes of the presynaptic and the postsynaptic neuron, which may or may not be separated by a gap called the synaptic cleft. There are two types of synapses, that is the electrical and the chemical. Conduction of nerve impulses through electrical synapse. At electrical synapse, the membrane of the pre and the post are in very close proximity. Electrical current can flow directly from the one neuron to the another across these synapses. Transmission of an impulse across electrical synapses is very similar to the impulse conduction along a single axon. Electrical impulses are rare in our system. A chemical synapse, the membranes of the pre and the post are separated by a fluid-filled space called the synaptic cleft, and the chemicals called the neurotransmitter involved in the transmission of the impulses are the synapses. The axon terminals contain vesicles filled with the neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter may be excitatory, acetylcholine, or the inhibitory, that is the GABA. The the two main neurotransmitter in vertebrate nervous system are acetylcholine and the noradrenaline. Main neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine or noradrenaline. When an impulse arrives at the axon terminal, it stimulates the movement of the synaptic vesicle towards the membrane where they fuse with the plasma membrane and release the neurotransmitters in the synaptic cleft. Okay, the released neurotransmitters bind to the specific receptors present on the postsynaptic membrane. This binding opens ion channels, allowing the entry of ions which can generate a new potential in the postsynaptic neuron. The new potential developed may be either excitatory or the inhibitory. The impulse transmission across an electrical synapse faster than that of a chemical. Here we have the central nervous system. The brain is the central information processing organ of our body and act as the command and the control system. It controls the voluntary movements, balance, function of vital and voluntary organs, lungs, heart, kidneys, thermoregulation, hunger, thirst, circadian 24-hour rhythms of our body, activities of the several endocrine glands, and the human behavior. It is also the site for processing of the vision, hearing, speech, memory, intelligence, emotions, and thoughts. The human brain is well protected by the skull. Inside the skull, the brain is covered by cranial meninges, consisting of an outer layer called the dura mater, a very thin middle layer called the arachnoid, and the inner layer called the pia mater. The brain can be divided into three major parts: forebrain, midbrain, and the hindbrain. Cerebrospinal fluid is a clear fluid present in the ventricles of the brain, subarachnoid space of brain and spinal cord. It acts as a shock absorbing medium for the brain. Forebrain, which is also called the prosencephalon. It consists of the cerebrum, olfactory lobes, and the diencephalon. Olfactory lobes, cerebrum, and the diencephalon. Olfactory lobes, paired club-shaped structure forming interior part of the brain concerned with the sense of smell. Each lobe consists of two parts: anterior olfactory bulb and the posterior olfactory tract. Anterior olfactory bulb and posterior olfactory tract. Large cerebrum is the largest and the most complex. Okay, it consists of left and right cerebral hemispheres connected by the corpus callosum tract of nerve fibers. Left and right cerebral hemisphere connected by corpus callosum. Cerebral cortex forms the outermost portion of the cerebrum and make up the gray matter. Cerebral cortex, it is the outer portion and it makes the gray matter. The surface of cortex is highly folded, forming gyri upper folds and alternating with the sulci downward groups. Gyri. And the sulci. These are the downward groups. Downward grooves. And the gyri is the upward folds. Beneath the grey matter, millions of the medullated nerve fibers are present, which give opaque white appearance and comprises of white matter. And the each hemisphere consists of the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobe, contains sensory, motor, and the association areas like the intersensory association, memory, and the communication. In the diencephalon, we have epithalamus, which is the roof. It forms anterior choroid plexus. Then the short pineal stalk have pineal body secretes hormone melatonin. Pineal stalk, pineal body secretes melatonin. Then we have the thalamus, which are the sides. It lies superior to midbrain. Composed of primarily of the grey matter, it serves as a switching station for the sensory, including the sound and the balance. With the exception of the smell, each sense channels its sensory nerves through the thalamus. Third is the hypothalamus, which is the floor. It lies above the pituitary and is attached to it by a stalk called the infundibulum. Maintains homeostasis, controls urge for eating and drinking, contains neurosecretory cells which secrete hormones called the hypothalamic hormones. The inner parts of the cerebral hemispheres and the group of associated deep structures like the amygdala, hippocampus, etc. form a complex structure called the limbic lobe or the limbic system. Inner parts of cerebral hemisphere. Limbic lobe or limbic system. Along with the hypothalamus, it is involved in the regulation of the sexual behavior, expression of emotional reactions. Example: excitement, pleasure, rage, and fear, and motivation.